Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining, nice and on time. Welcome to Workwhile's webinar with Bauer Academy and with BBC, talking all about boosting creative content. So looking at the level 3 content creator apprenticeships specifically, but also can talk to you about lots of other apprenticeships that are out there this morning. So thank you all very much for joining. We will just wait on the call for a few more minutes, just as people log in and get set up. And then after that, we'll kick off. Just while we're waiting, if you would like to let us know who you are and where you're from, or where you work in the chat, it'd be lovely to get introductions from you as well. $16 so far, just wait for a few more. Hi, Sarah, thanks for introducing yourself. And so do use the chat throughout. We're going to be going around and doing our speeches, presentations, but any questions you have throughout, you can either use the chat or the Q&A. Either is fine, and we'll come to those at the end because we've got time for questions and answers with everyone that's speaking as well. Hi, Shona, thanks for joining. Brilliant. I think we might get a few more, but in this case, I'm just going to kick off and get started. So yes, thank you everyone for joining this morning. My name is Emma McWalter. I'm a Senior Programme Manager at Workwhile. And just to introduce you to who you'll hear from today. So as part of today's webinar, I will talk to you about Workwhile, give a bit of introduction to us as an organisation and the work that we do, about apprenticeships and about the wider world of good work. I'll then be handing over to Louise Brown from the BBC, who does really exciting work with BBC's internal apprentices, but also with levy transfer, supporting lots of other organisations up and down the country with the BBC's levy. I'll then be passing over to Jill Shaw from Bauer Academy, who is the head of partnerships, talking about Bauer Academy's unique approach to being a training provider in the kind of media and creative sector, their kind of philosophy and a background to the standard. And we've also got Neil Smith joining us, which is great. So he's a tutor on the content creator course, so he can give us the proper insight into exactly what that looks like when you start to do the course and go through what the benefits are that he's seen with the students so far. And then we've also got Sam Green joining us this morning from TXM Group, which is very kind. So she is a current content creator apprentice and is also working as a talent acquisition manager at TXM Group. So can talk to you about exactly how it fits in with her day-to-day work as well. Brilliant. So just to give you the background to Workwhile, so you can see us all there. Workwhile is a not-for-profit initiative. At the moment, we are incubated by a think tank called IPPR, and we're in the process of becoming our own independent charity as well. So our mission is all about supporting employers to create good work and making sure that everyone can access it. We have this mission because we realise that talent is everywhere, but the opportunities to access it are not. And therefore, we work with employers to really bridge that gap, make sure they're creating apprenticeships and vacancies, and also looking after their staff as well as they possibly can once they're in role, in order to give people those next steps in life, promote social mobility, and make sure that people are being offered good work from disadvantaged backgrounds. The ways in which we actually work practically on that mission is kind of threefold. So we have our Workwhile apprenticeships. So we used to be called LPC, London Progression Collaboration, when we first started out, rebranded to Workwhile about a year and a half ago, I think. And through that work, we work with SMEs all across London. So any SME that's in the 32 boroughs of London can access free information, support, and guidance from us about everything to do with apprenticeships. So any type of business, any type of apprenticeship, we can basically provide you tailored support. And with that, we also cover levy transfer as well. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And also on top of that, we do line manager training called developmental. So this training has been specially developed to support line managers of apprentices specifically. So obviously it's all well and good creating opportunities and getting people started on apprenticeships, but how do we ensure that they're staying in them and that they're completing them and doing well and progressing? And obviously line management is a huge part of that. I think everyone knows that your kind of experience of management is a large factor in how long you stay at a job and kind of where it takes you as well. So that mentoring and coaching training program is something that we offer also across London. So if you're interested in that, do get in touch with us. And then aside from that, we also do paid projects. So consultancy pieces of work with either one large employer or a group. And our East Bank Shared Apprenticeship Program is an example of one of those projects, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a minute. So just some stats in terms of the work that we've done so far. So Workwhile began in 2020, and since then it's very close to 2,000, so 1,950 people's working lives improved. So that's either through apprenticeship routes or through our developmental training and our other projects as well. And through that levy transfer work specifically, we've supported over 500 small, medium-sized businesses. So levy transfer, just to give a very brief overview of that, is a mechanism that you can do through the government website, which allows the cost of the training of the apprentice to be fully covered by another organisation. So just to be very clear, that's for the cost of the training of the apprentice, which is the funding band. So that'll be a different cost for every different type of apprenticeship. And what it doesn't cover is the wages. So the wages are always the employer's responsibility in terms of providing that funding to hire someone new. Obviously, if they're someone who you're currently already paying, if they're current staff and they're upskilling on an apprenticeship, then that wouldn't be an additional cost. And you could upskill them on an apprenticeship without having to pay for that training. But yeah, in terms of the levy transfer work we've done so far, we have 17.5 million that's transferred so far. So the East Bank program is a project that I lead on at Workwhile. It's a really exciting project because it's building on the legacy of the Olympic Park in Newham. So all those businesses you can see there, so BBC, who's joined us today, Sadler's Wells, University of the Arts London, UCL and V&A, are all building new buildings on what they call the East Bank, which is a bit by the river in the old Olympic Park in Newham. And some of those buildings are now open and they look amazing. If you haven't been around there recently and you're London based, I would recommend a visit. The park itself is lovely, and also those buildings are starting to open, with actually V&A due to open soon as well. So as part of that work, we were commissioned by those organisations to look at how we can make sure that the East Bank itself and the new East London hub becomes a rival to the South Bank of London in terms of creative and community activity. So we're drawing on the expertise and the networks and the assets of those organisations in order to not only build themselves up, but also benefit the wider community in the local area. So we do this through a few different ways. We are helping those East Bank partners create their own internal apprenticeship opportunities. So do keep your eye out for those. There's some starting to be advertised as those buildings open at the moment. We're also working with them to share their own levy with SMEs in the surrounding areas. So the boroughs that can benefit from this are Tower Hamlets, Newham, Hackney, or Waltham Forest. But I also just want to make it very, very clear that you can work with Workwhile and you can get levy transfer, and you can also access our other services if you're not in those boroughs. Any borough of London, you can work with us. It's just for this shared apprenticeship program specifically is looking at those 4 boroughs. So we supported 65 apprentices through this program so far. And you can see a few stats there in terms of how many we've supported from the creative and cultural sector as well. So as part of the program, there are additional benefits that you would receive as an employer working with us, one of which obviously is the levy transfer, which I've talked about already. We also do what we call a good work health check, which is a kind of specialist tailored assessment and meeting that we do that looks at the 4 key areas of good work. So fair pay, health and well-being, diversity and inclusion, and skills and progression. And from that meeting, we provide a tailored report, which gives you practical next steps and advice for any areas of improvement in those areas that you can take away and look at whenever you like, really. Aside from that, we also have our bespoke support. So we'd help you with all the practicalities of picking the right standard, finding a provider, getting set up on the DAS portal. We can also help with, if you are recruiting, we can point you in the right direction of where to advertise those roles. Particularly if you're in East London, we're working with an organisation called the Good Growth Hub that helps young people into creative work. So they've got a really good candidate pool that is kind of there for access as well. And then we also provide our developmental training for the line managers. And the one thing that is also additional to that is there are professional development sessions that are going to be happening that the apprentices themselves can access as well. So really helping with their development as well as the line managers training. And I just wanted to end my section today with something that Workwhile launched this week that we're particularly proud of. So we did a piece of research over the past maybe 6 months, looking at how young people today would define what good work is. So we know that there's quite a lot of literature out there that's perhaps a little bit outdated, a little bit academic and kind of written by large corporates about what people think good work is and what makes up good work. So we wanted to really pair that back to actual young people who are entering the job market at the moment and see what it is that they're looking for when it comes to good work. And I won't read the whole definition for you, but I think some of the things we talked about that we're really championing in the East Bank programme, as well as through our other work, are really supported through that definition. And yeah, if you do want to talk to us more about that or see how you can make sure that you're meeting those ideals, do get in touch with us. We've got a video of all the young people talking about this, which explains all their opinions and how we got there as well. So I would recommend that. I'll pop that in the chat at some point today. And that's it from Workwhile this morning. I wanted to now hand over to Louise Brown from BBC, who's going to talk to us a little bit more about how we work together, their apprenticeships, and also how they transfer to other organisations as well. So yeah, thank you, Louise.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you ever so much for inviting me to be here today. So within the BBC, sort of internally, we are working towards 1,000 apprentices every year by 2026, and we're quite close to that target already. Some of those are content creators. I know we're specifically here sort of to talk about that today with the team from Bauer. However, the BBC is a huge organisation, obviously offers lots of apprenticeship schemes, ranging from HR, data, tech, also content and TV and radio production and things as well. We are now a top 100 apprenticeships employer, which is fantastic, and we've got lots of experience in sort of training apprentices. What we want to do now really is to help other employers to do the same. So training for our own apprentices is funded through our own levy. I know Emma just touched on what the levy is, and we pay for our own apprentices for the training through our own levy. But we still have funds in that pot that we now really want to be able to share with other businesses, and just ensure that that money isn't wasted, that those funds aren't wasted. The BBC has a mandate under its charter and agreement to train for industry. It's not just about the BBC and about training for the people that work with us. It's about building skills and training across the wider creative industries. And also finding that talent and making sure that we're sharing that talent and providing further opportunities. So we do that in various different ways, and the levy is just sort of one of the ways that we do that. So I suppose it's about the BBC adopting a collaborative approach, working with lots of partners, working with Bauer, who are one of our internal training providers as well, amongst others, also working with companies such as Workwhile, and really wanting to work with companies that align with our BBC values. So creativity is one of our BBC values. It's at the heart of everything that we do. And we really believe that those creative roles really can really enhance your business. So we know that lots of people don't necessarily think that creative roles are for them. And traditionally, when you're at school, you might think actually that it's, to go down a more traditional route. We really think that creative roles can really sort of, as I say, enhance your business. So what we want to do with our levy is to really focus on creative, tech and digital roles. And that is what we've decided to prioritise at the moment. The BBC is widely regarded as one of the best broadcasters in the world, if not the best. We also want to be the best at producing that talent and sharing that talent amongst other organisations. So we know that there are skills gaps in creative, tech and digital. And, we want to look at how we can best sort of fulfil those skills gaps. And we want to look at sharing that levy. So we think that the levy transfer mechanism is a fantastic way of providing people with opportunities. We know that going to university isn't for everybody. We also know that people have already potentially started in roles, and now maybe want to upskill. So absolutely, as Emma touched on, that the levy is a fantastic way of doing that, because the BBC can fund the training for your apprentice through our levy. What's also really exciting is that you don't have to be a traditional tech, creative, digital business to be able to take advantage of this offer. We have had content creators, digital marketeers work in restaurants, work in shops, work in construction companies, because those creative roles now are really needed across all sectors. So you don't have to be, as I say, a traditional tech digital business to be able to take on an apprentice. What we really want to do is just to work with businesses that will align with our BBC values. So there's certain criteria that you will need to meet to be able to access our levy, and Workwhile can help you with that and with looking at what those criteria are. One of those is that we ask you as a business to pay national minimum wage, not apprenticeship wage, national minimum wage to your apprentices, because we really believe that we want to set apprentices up for success, and that actually by paying them a good salary to begin with, and nurturing them and giving them all those things within your business, to make them stay, actually you are creating succession plans for your business. They are the future of your workforce. And what we want is for those apprentices to really stick with the apprenticeship, make sure that they complete that, and that they don't fall off halfway through because they can go and get a national minimum wage job elsewhere, but that isn't really then going to add to their future. So that is one of the things that we would ask you to do. We know that taking on an apprentice can be a challenge to begin with. That is where companies like Bauer and Workwhile are fantastic in offering that support, is offering the pastoral, is being able to support with that. We know it's really tricky time at the moment for SMEs. I'm not sitting here as somebody from the BBC that doesn't understand that. I absolutely understand that. And as an industry partnership manager, I work with lots of small production companies and other wider creative industry companies. And we know it's tough, and we know it's tough financially. And that's why we want to support with the cost of the training. But if we can encourage you to offer national minimum wage, we think that in the long run, that will benefit your business. And we know that Bauer and Workwhile will offer all of the rest of the support that you need. Of course, we need you to be able to offer support on a day-to-day basis. But we really think that you'll see the benefits, through your workforce as well, and in those succession plans. So I really would urge you that if you are thinking about taking on an apprentice, please have a chat with Emma about how we might be able to facilitate that. The content creator one is a huge one for us, because we know that actually it can be used now in so many businesses. And I think that's why this is a great partnership. And we know that there's so many amazing creative businesses across London. And yeah, let's try and make some more opportunities. Let's try and promote social mobility. That is absolutely what we're doing with minimum wage as well, as that is a requirement. We want to promote social mobility. As I say, we know that the university isn't for everybody, but we know that talent's out there, and maybe they think that creative industries aren't for them. We want to change that way of thinking, and actually by working in partnership, we can absolutely do that and find that talent and reach out into those communities where we know that talent is, and we just need to be able to give them the opportunities. So please talk to Emma if you are interested in accessing the BBC's levy fund. We'd absolutely love to work with you, and I know that Emma will facilitate that. It's a very, very smooth process. So yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about that today.
Thank you so much. And people probably don't know this, but Louise has joined us from sunny Spain as well. So thank you so much for that. That is very, very kind.
And you are welcome. I will be going to the beach straight afterwards.
Don't rub it in, Louise. Don't rub it in.
Yeah, London is it is sunny here today, but it's definitely cold. But thank you very much. That's a great overview. And yes, I'm now going to hand over to Jill at Bauer, who's going to give you an overview of apprenticeships, what they mean, as well as background to Bauer Academy, and then hand over to Neil, the tutor, to hear more about the course as well. So thank you very much. Over to you.
Thanks, Emma. Morning, everyone. So I'm Jill Shaw. Excuse me, tongue twisted already. I'm Jill Shaw, Head of Partnerships for Bauer Academy. So Bauer Academy, if you've not heard from us, we're an award-winning training provider based inside Bauer Media. So that's Bauer Media are one of the world's largest privately owned media businesses. And we've got a host of audio and publishing brands here in the UK, some of which you will hopefully recognise on the slide here. Some really fabulous brands. So we train our own people here in the UK and across Europe, but we also work with a host of other employers in support of all their talent development needs also. So being an employer provider based inside a wonderfully large media business, it really makes us quite unique, and it gives us a significantly strong position in the marketplace because we do things quite differently. So for our clients, including Bauer, we create transformational change through people. So we work hard to understand each and every client, their culture, their strategy, and then really collaborate to deliver co-created, bespoke and creative L&D solutions that meet and answer the individual needs of a business. So we do have a philosophy of learn, apply, reflect. So this is where learning is remembered, applied, and is useful for both individual careers, but more importantly, within the workflow of the business. And this philosophy, ties in beautifully to the whole premise of what an apprenticeship is. This is a look at some of the employers that we work with. So as a significant player in the media industry, you'd expect us to teach some of the big media organisations. Louise mentioned we work with the BBC, we work with ITV, Channel 4, News UK, etc. But because of the reputation we have and actually the results we get on our programmes, we do attract employers from across a number of different sectors, a lot of SMEs as well. And we work with businesses in retail and fashion, aesthetics. We work with quite a few of the councils, and we even taught the UN. I was very surprised when I got that call, but that was a rather exciting call. But yeah, so we've taught the UN. And if you'll indulge me a little briefly, because we've had a phenomenal year this year, and here's some of our recent successes. So we picked up 2 awards at the annual Apprenticeship Awards this year, winning Creative and Design Apprenticeship Provider of the Year, as well as we got highly commended for overall Apprenticeship Provider of the Year. And that was against some really big academic players in the arena. And further to that, in July, we were awarded gold by Investors in People as a business, and it's a sterling accolade and one that we're extremely proud of. We also deliver industry-leading results across our apprenticeships. So in the world of apprenticeships, just to explain, training providers are measured by their achievement rates, which represents the number of learners that complete and pass our programmes. So in our very recent quality achievement rate data, we stand head and shoulders above the competition, which we're very proud of. So we have a performance rate, a provisional performance rate currently on our programmes that is 30% higher than the last published national average. So that provisional achievement rate is currently 84%. So that will get fully confirmed through government stats in the new year, but we're extremely proud of that. Our distinction rate is also at 60%. So that really is a testament to the quality of the teaching that over 60% of our learners are going through and getting distinctions on the programmes and on the qualifications they're achieving. So big thank you to our tutors, Neil of which is one of them on that one. This is just a really brief overview of what we do, just so you can see outside of apprenticeships that we have a whole other host of things that we do as a business. So we have pillars across our main focus is work-based learning solutions, and we cover a whole range of pillars. So storytelling, leadership, sales, you can see them on the screen there, D&I, etc. So we've got a whole host of content within our toolkit. Our roots are very much the talent pipelines, and similar to Workwhile, over the years, we've worked with a number of different businesses, government organisations in supporting and facilitating career opportunities for underrepresented groups in specifically the creative sector. So we've got a lot of history there, and we've got some current partnerships alive today in that space. We have a full toolkit of workshops as well, and short courses, masterclasses, and we support our own business with these, but we also work with all of our clients on them too. And we've got a lot of expertise in creating bespoke solutions for clients as well. And we're actually just about to launch a series of courses in the coming weeks, so just keep an eye on our LinkedIn for that one if you want to check them out. And then, of course, we have our apprenticeships. So before we go on to kind of talk about content creator, this is just a quick snapshot of our full portfolio. So we've got our leadership and coaching pillar, and there you'll see that we have pathways that can support first-time managers right up to exec level leaders. We've actually got a mid-level manager programme, which is the operations manager level 5, which is enrolling starting at the end of this month. So that's a great programme that looks to support managers in navigating change, supporting them through hybrid management techniques and really delivering high-performing teams. So that's one that we're enrolling currently. And then we have our creative pillar. So programs like multi-channel marketer, which is a great entry-level marketing qualification, and then of course content creator, which you'll hear about shortly. And then we've kind of got our media and journalism strand, which we do a lot of work with the BBC on, for example. So before I go on to kind of talk about content creator, I just wanted to talk a bit more about apprenticeships, just in case there's anyone who doesn't really have a grasp of what an apprenticeship is, because they can be confusing. So a quick 101. So apprenticeships teach practical work-based skills. So where learning is applied directly into the job role and the flow of that apprentice's work. They are industry recognised qualifications. So the programmes are actually built by trailblazing committees from industry. So the skills taught in programme should be wholly relevant to the job role that you're filling. So currently they run for a minimum of 12 months. And then that 12-month period, depending on the programme, because each programme has different lengths, but that training period then is followed by an endpoint assessment period where the learner then goes on to be assessed in order to get their certificate and their qualification. And a key thing to point out is it's very important that in order for that candidate to successfully complete their apprenticeship, they must have the opportunity to evidence that learning within their role. So that means that when taking on an apprentice or putting a colleague into an apprenticeship, you need to ensure that the training that is delivered through your selected qualification will align to the job role of that person. And finally, as we've been hearing, the apprenticeship training can be fully funded by the levy, which is obviously a very, very good benefit. So a lot of people do think that apprenticeships are for early careers only, or for people starting out in industry, but it's definitely not the case. Yes, they do offer a fantastic opportunity to bring new talent and diverse talent into a business, but they also offer employers the opportunity to invest in people in their current business. So as I mentioned, they are industry recognised qualifications. So they go from level 2, which is GCSE level currently, right up to level 7, which is a master's level qualification. For employers, they do offer some real benefits, so they can support in filling key skills gaps in the business, with all that training being fully funded, as you heard from Louise and Emma earlier. They can boost employee motivation, so helping them to feel valued, invested in, and they have been proven to improve retention rates as well. For learners, they provide strong foundations, so joining the training to the job role, skills taught can be immediately put into practice, which really reinforces the learning and helps it stick. And that then in turn enhances their confidence, and as a result, their performance improves. And they do boost connectivity, so they bring learners together. So learners will come in maybe to an open cohort. If you had someone, or if it was yourself, you'd maybe coming into an open cohort where there's lots of different businesses, different sectors, different job roles, all on that programme together. And that really brings another dimension and perspective to that person's learning journey. And of course, there's the career mobility benefits. So we personally have seen so many examples of learners who've achieved promotions and progressed within their employment while they've been doing an apprenticeship or thereafter. So really good opportunity. So yeah, it's just really such a fantastic way for people to work on their own professional development while they're working as well. And really, it's never too late to learn. So we do, you can see a quote here from one of our learners within Bauer Media. Lisa's 50 and she's doing a content creator apprenticeship. So even though it's a level 3 apprenticeship, it doesn't mean it can't be relevant to someone who's well into their career, as long as they're picking up new skills and can evidence them in their role. This is really brief, and we can answer questions on this if anyone's got questions, but it's just really about recruitment and recruiting an apprentice, because I know that won't apply to everyone who's listening. But just quickly, a key thing to point out is when you're creating your job ad, and we can support in this, and as Emma said, she can support in this hugely, but when you're creating your job ad, it's really vital that you try and make that job ad align to the apprenticeship standard as much as possible. And there's various routes to recruitment, and Emma ourselves can support you on that as well. And then just to reinforce your role as the employer then, so it's your responsibility really to ensure that candidate is eligible for the funding, but also that they are in a contract of employment for the term of the apprenticeship. Now, it could be that you're taking someone else on a fixed term contract, that's absolutely fine, but that fixed term contract needs to run for the full length of the training and then the endpoint assessment period at the end, in order for them to be eligible for funding. You can take people on part-time. It's not impossible, but I think 30 hours or more would be the preference when someone's trying to do an apprenticeship and do their job as well. And yeah, of course, you've already heard that we need to ensure that the employers pay the salaries, etc. They're responsible for that. So this is it might look a bit complex, this slide, but I think it's an important one to reinforce, because a lot of people have concerns about the time commitments around learning while working. And Sam will maybe talk about this a bit shortly when she talks about how she fits it into her job. But there's a lot of concerns, and we hear it a lot from employers about how can we find the time to train, and how can we have our employees be training at the same time as working. But I just wanted to kind of run through what that might look like. So all apprenticeship programmes have a mandatory government requirement that they need to be doing active learning for a minimum of 6 hours per week. So you might have heard of this as being called off the job. So we don't call it that, because we think a lot of it's very much on the job. So we prefer to call it dedicated development time, or DDT for short. And that's made up of things like the following. So as a baseline, we'll have mandatory workshops and assignments which need to be attended and completed. So on average, learners are maybe in a workshop with us 1 day a month, sometimes 2 days. And off the back of that, each workshop, there'll be an assignment set, and the learner then will have to complete that assignment. And quite often these assignments will link to their job role. So it's not always something that'll sit separate from what they do day to day. You've also then got sort of the more personalised elements of the learning as well. So this covers things like their own self-guided learning, which we as a provider would give you lots of resources on. So things like reading, listening to podcasts, attending webinars, job shadowing, etc. And the final component part is then just that application of learning. So that's then taking everything that they're doing, everything they're learning, and how are they applying that into the role? How are they then evidencing that in what they do in their day job, and just tracking it all? There's a bit of an admin element to it as well, isn't there, Sam, where you have to actually track what it is you're doing. So I just wanted to explain that just to sort of help people understand, because there is always questions around what the time commitment is. So on to our content creator programme. So I'm just going to do a quick chat over some of the technicalities, and then I'm going to hand over to Neil to talk about all the fun stuff. So while it's a level 3 qualification, this programme really can be for anyone. You know, anyone who has an ambition to improve their creative output, appeal to an audience, and we see people from a huge cross-section of roles and career stages join this programme, and it can really support them in sort of improving their content output and engaging audiences, you know, the subject of the webinar. So perfect. So the programme is typically 13 months training, followed by a 3-month window where learners complete their final projects and prepare for their assessment. The funding band, which you heard Louise mention earlier, is £10,000. So for content creator, that £10,000 would be fully funded through the apprenticeship levy and the levy transfer. You know, as stated, you would pay the wage. The funding would be covered through the levy transfer. And in terms of eligibility for this programme, there is government criteria that you need to adhere to, and we can send on information about that. But really, it's just about ensuring that the candidate doesn't have too much prior learning in a subject. So whether that's through academic study or work experience, and Emma, myself, we can give advice on that. And then they also need to be able to, any apprentice needs to be able to evidence their level 2s in maths and English, so GCSE level, grade C or 4 above. And we can, if people don't have that, it's not a barrier. We can take them through those qualifications while they're on programme with us. So Neil, may I hand over to you, and I'll be your clicker. Is that all right? Yeah.
Thank you, Jill. Unfortunately, not coming to you from the glamour of Spain like Louise. I'm in West Sussex near Brighton. It is quite sunny this morning, but I'm quite jealous, Louise. Also, the irony of on this slide, it's saying at the bottom presentation techniques, and here I am going to stumble my way through this because I'm fighting a chest infection, so I apologize. But yeah, good morning. So content creator, I think the first thing to say is that actually we know the traditional creative media organizations, but I think we need to recognize that all organizations are creative media organizations in today's world by virtue of the fact that every one of us is walking around with a television in our pockets. And every organization, every company, every brand is trying to reach an audience, whether that's a consumer or a listener or a viewer. We're trying to promote, sell, engage, tell stories, create empathy, relatability. So that's what we do. In order to help people level up their storytelling and engage their audiences, right? However you want to kind of frame what that audience looks like. I think another really sort of key distinction is we talk about content creator, and that's the name of the course, but it's so much more. We're not I'm not teaching you to dance to The Weekend on TikTok. It's not that, okay? There's a lot more to it. What we do is we cover off a broad range of things. We cover a sort of an industry knowledge as a sort of base foundation, first of all, sort of refocusing the lens on what that kind of creative media output looks like. We cover off copywriting, absolutely essential for search engine optimization, ranking, for connecting with audiences, again, on a relatable level in terms of the way that we write and begin our storytelling with the written word. We look at social media production. We cover a wide kind of plethora of sort of social media and how to enhance our content and our visibility and our connection to audiences, looking for that emotional connection. We cover off some image and photography basics, best practice, looking at how to sort of, I guess, visualize content 2-dimensionally before we start looking at the 3-dimensional, which we do with video production as well. We also work on recording and editing our own video and our own audio content. We do cover, as mentioned, SEO as well. So how to take our creativity, but then ultimately make it visible so that it reaches the audiences that we're intending it to reach. And we do a lot of other things around sort of brief and pitch as well, how to be kind of better at presenting and delivering our ideas. There's a lot of transferable skills. One of the big overarching things through this course is as I say, it's more than just the content creation. It's the confidence development and the kind of being your best sort of professional self, which sounds very cliche, but that's kind of what we try to do, to give everyone the ability to sort of be the best version of themselves in terms of their own individual brand, in terms of individuals being their own individual creative sort of media organization. So we do a lot of confidence and a lot of presentation work as well. So it's a really kind of broad spectrum, but it's ultimately about sort of a lot of what we do, again, ironically, in a very digital age, is strip things back to a very analog presentation, so that we can just concentrate on how to tell a good story first, and what makes a good story and what is going to impact, before we try and translate that into something digital. So yeah, that covers off, I think, the course, and storytelling is ultimately, as it says at the top there, the lifeblood of everything that we do. Next slide, please, Jill, I think. That's quite a whistle-stop tour, but hopefully that covers everything. And Jill mentioned about how the commitment to the apprenticeship tenure is to go through the sort of course. That's like me being, I guess, a driving instructor. And then you move on to endpoint assessment. That's like the equivalent, I guess, of you going off and doing your driving test. And in that driving test, there are certain things you have to do, certain maneuvers you have to demonstrate, and certain capabilities you have to show the driving instructor. And so we prepare you for that. And the maneuvers that you do during endpoint assessment are, you have a professional discussion, which is it's like a job interview, like a glorified show and tell, I guess, is a nicer way to sort of frame it, with an assessor where you work through a portfolio of your work, a scrapbook of your work that you've created and curated with me, or whoever is kind of guiding you through the course of the apprenticeship. And then you will also have completed a project during your tenure. And this is how we align the skills directly to your job role, because you'll be working on a project where you get to bring all of your newfound capability to life and apply it to your role in a way that benefits your professional output. And then when you get to that driving sort of test, you do a written report on that, and you effectively do a post-campaign analysis looking at what you've done and what you'll be looking to kind of improve in the future. So that's a kind of, again, a real kind of quick overview of what EPA looks like. But don't worry too much about that now, because we'll get you there. But that's what we do. So that's content creator, that's the course, storytelling, and that covers it, I think. Jill, would you say? Is there anything more you want me to add, or?
Yeah, I guess it's just also, what does it look like, practically? So, that is where you'd be in a workshop with us, with us as Training Academy every month, Neil, isn't it? So roughly one full day a month we're in a workshop, and some of the modules we do boot camps, which are back to back 2 days, but generally you're out of your business, or your apprentice is out of the business for one full day a month. And then it's outside of that, it's all these other elements I talked about earlier, isn't it, Neil? And we are fully supportive of apprentices. So if they are struggling with workloads, etc., Neil, you'll put plans in place, and we do have regular check-ins, don't we, Neil, through the progress reviews?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're very flexible. We work with you. It isn't a one size fits all. Everybody's different. Everybody's got a unique kind of route that they're kind of walking, albeit all heading to the same destination. So yeah, we're there to sort of tailor it to you as an individual learner, to the line manager, to the business with co-creation. Yeah, we're very flexible, and there's a compliance to learn sort of in every 4-week window. So we sort of achieve that by default from the get-go with the timetable, by you attending a session every month, as Jill said. And those sessions are all sort of standalone little islands in the ocean, but connected by bridges. And it's designed, as with any good story, really, to sort of be chapter for chapter for chapter. And then at the end, you go, oh, and it all makes sense. And yeah, you do assignments off the back of each session. That's a way that we get to see you then go away and kind of show us that you've taken something away from the session and been able to kind of apply that. Some of the assignments will be connected to your job role. Some of them will be detached by design. One of the really important things within the framework of what we do is allowing you to kind of break that echo chamber of your daily professional output and be given the freedom to create and the freedom to express and try new things. And we have this very kind of I think very important kind of fail forward philosophy that we work with as well, where we want you to kind of stretch boundaries and push comfort zones and try new things, because that's where the development comes from. So the assignments are for that purpose, alongside your, as Jill mentioned, self-guided learning, which is often done on the job, and it all kind of marries together at the end in terms of the overall completion of everything that you do. So yeah.
Amazing.
And it's fun.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So yeah, we have Sam here joining us as a current apprentice on this course, which is fantastic to get that insight, and also as talent acquisition manager at TXM Group. So yeah, Sam, perhaps you could give us a bit of just background to yourself and the organisation and what you do, and then a bit more about your experience with the apprenticeship. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I think Neil was asked to choose someone on his current cohort that likes to talk. So here I am. So yeah, just to give you a bit of background about me, I'm probably a very good example of what Gillian was saying about not being your typical apprentice. I'm nearly 40. I've been in recruitment for 15 years, but I'm still learning and developing. So basically I work as talent acquisition manager for TXM Group. So basically we're a group of 20 companies globally, mainly within the field of recruitment, but we also have some other consultancy businesses within the group as well. So I've been in recruitment for about 15 years now, and have moved less so into a role where it's very kind of figures heavy and trying to get bums on seats, but it's more about kind of engaging with a wider audience to try and attract people to want to come and work for TXM, and just basically presenting us as an employer of choice. So my role has moved on from sort of the day-to-day picking up the phone, trying to speak to as many candidates as possible and get them in the door, to actually doing that more kind of outreach kind of content piece, which is why I flagged up to my line manager that I wanted to do a course that really relates to that, because I haven't got any formal training in anything to do with social media or marketing or anything like that. It's kind of been fumbling my way along and thinking of an idea and sticking it on LinkedIn and maybe putting a few images with it. But I wanted some more formal training, and hence why I've joined obviously the cohort now within content creator at Bauer Media. So what I really liked is when we initially kind of reached out to a couple of different course providers, was I really felt like this course with Bauer very much fits in with my day-to-day, because obviously I have pressures in my day-to-day role. It's very busy. It can be, I mean, some weeks are absolutely manically busy where you're doing sort of working 10 hours a day and it's crazy, and then other times when you find you've filled a lot of the positions, it goes a bit quieter. So the fact that there's that flexibility around my kind of work commitments is great. So in terms of sort of like my experience on the course, so it's really changed the way that I kind of approach my content creation. As I say, it was kind of more of a fumbling around, not really having much confidence in what I was producing and putting out there, to having a much more kind of structured approach, rather than being quite scattergun. So Neil always talks about the idea that there's content in absolutely everything, trusting in the small details. So you have been listening and expanding on those ideas to make some really, really strong and really unique and engaging content, and thinking about who is my audience? Who am I trying to reach? What am I trying to achieve? Rather than just, I think this sounds okay, I've stuck it into AI and it sounds all right, and putting it out there. So about that, obviously creating that really unique content is really, really important. And it's given me confidence. And even now, presenting to camera and talking confidently about what I'm doing and what I'm presenting. For me, a lot of it is about focusing on personal branding. So thinking about even yourself and what you're putting out there, that you are in effect yourself a brand, which is a very odd concept to get your head around, but it's I'm basically like the shop window for TXM and anyone potentially looking to join us. So it's about thinking about that when I'm producing that content. So in terms of kind of the topics that we've covered that have had a real big kind of impact on my day-to-day. So I mean, the first topic we cover is copywriting, talking about story writing, and a lot of the performance reviews I've had with Neil and my line manager, I always say that that's made a real impact, because it's at the heart of everything we do in terms of content creation, and thinking about that structure and not just putting together a LinkedIn post. I've really kind of thought about beginning, middle, end, how I've structured it, and that runs through with even your images, with your video content, everything else. Thinking about image and photography, I don't just click and point and put that up now. I'm thinking about the composition and a bit more thought out really, rather than just click and up it goes on LinkedIn or whatever social platform that I'm using. And even sort of like the technical side, the SEO side, and I've learned so much
Again, you know, AI is a real kind of buzzword and it's being used really widely, but it never replaces that original content and understand the reasons why, and that, you know, you're not going to get up to the top of the rankings if you just stick out loads of AI content. It's kind of like the lazy way. So a lot of things there that have been really, really useful. And it's had a genuine impact on, obviously, the posts that I've put out. I've had so much more engagement, so many more likes, shares, comments, and you know, it's that technical knowledge that's really helped that as well. So just to give you like a real life example, because I mentioned LinkedIn a lot, but I have been reaching out with Neil's encouragement onto other platforms as well and producing more video content. But say, for example, I've got something that I want to talk about, sort of a new, say, CSR initiative we're doing, and I want to talk about it on our social channels. I'll really think about the composition, the audience, what images I'm using. Could this be a video? Can I repurpose this content rather than having to produce new all the time? Again, saves a lot of time and effort and often cost. So loads of things like that that really come into play in my day-to-day role. Just talking a bit more about sort of the actual structure of the apprenticeship. So as Gillian and Neil said, you know, you do have 1 day a month in a full day of an online workshop, which is great because you get to meet loads of other people from loads of different sort of industry sectors, a whole range of ages and different demographics there to, you know, to really expand your network. And then obviously you've got your assignments and your off-the-job learning as well. But a lot of it is me doing my day-to-day job and implementing that learning. So it doesn't even feel like I'm dedicating X amount of hours a week to doing it. It's actually implementing what I've learned on the workshops and my own research and putting that into my daily role. So one, it's showing the impact day to day and what I'm doing, but also I'm getting my off-the-job hours as well, which is great. But yeah, the pace of it's really, really good. The content's, excuse the pun, the content is very, very relevant. And you know, you do get a lot of support as well. If I've, say, been set an assignment and I'm not quite sure what it means and what I'm actually expected to do, Neil's very great at jumping on a call, running through it with me. So yeah, you get that bespoke support as well, not just in a group setting, but one-to-one as well. So yeah, I've definitely recommended it to other people, certainly in the recruitment industry, but I can see it applying to so many different industries as well. So that's just kind of a bit of a whistle-stop tour of my experience so far, being halfway through the course. But obviously feel free to reach out to me if you've got any other questions at all. I can give you a genuine first-hand kind of experience of how it's been for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. That's really great. And I think a real show of how applicable it is to like so many different types of content and businesses. And I think just echoing what Neil was saying earlier, how every business creates content, you know, and Workwhile ourselves are not-for-profit organizations specifically looking at apprenticeships. Like we create content the same way as anyone else would, private businesses, charities, large or small. It's everyone's job now. It's so true. And yeah, what a great way to be able to actually have the tools and the skills and the qualification to kind of prove it as well. So yeah, excellent stuff. Brilliant. So I've got a few questions I'd like to ask different people in the group just to kick that off. And yeah, do ask your questions in the chat or the Q&A function, anyone from the audience that would like to ask anything. I just wanted to come back to the recruitment question. So there might be some people on the call that are either interested in doing the apprenticeship themselves or putting one of their staff members up for it in their role. But if that's not the case, if they're looking to hire new people into their organisation, I was wondering perhaps maybe Jill, you might want to talk a little bit about how Bauer helps with recruitment, and then I can talk about it a bit from Workwhile's perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't do the recruitment. There will be providers that will offer a recruitment service, but we don't do the recruitment. We prefer our employers to recruit people most relevant to their business, and we think that's important. So what we can do is support you, so we can help in pre-assessments of CVs and answering any questions you might have around concerns around eligibility because of prior sort of study that they've done or work experience they've had. And of course, we can help you share your job ads, etc. We get lots of inquiries directly from individuals that we can pass these people on to, and then, you know, we can just support you throughout the process. Depending on the scale of your business, you might have assessment centres that you're running that we can support on as well. So yeah, lots of way in which we can support. And I think Emma probably has lots of great routes as well to how you can attract apprentices, and by the sounds of it, sort of access to people, young people as well, looking for roles.
Yes, we're similar in the sense that we actively support with the recruitment, but in a different way to like TXM Group would exact. So essentially, what we can do is advise you on how to advertise. We've got a list of like websites that are popular, particularly for early careers, apprentices, but also the government platform. We can help you get set up on there. And sharing those vacancies with other contacts that we have. So as an intermediary, we try and spread it as far and wide as possible. So things like local authorities, services, can help you recruit locally as well. And we've also got a few partners who are looking specifically at certain disadvantaged groups as well. So whether that be care leavers, refugees, and yeah, other organisations in that kind of NGO kind of third-party charity sector that can put people up for those roles, which is great. And yes, aside from that, the lots of providers also offer that service. So yeah, there's really lots of options for that, and apprenticeships now on UCAS as well. I know we've got someone on from UCAS on the call, so definitely a good time to shout that out. So any level, actually, if it's like a degree level apprenticeship, can be up there, but actually anything level 2 up can still be advertised on UCAS. And obviously that's where young people go to look at what their next steps are when they're at that stage of life. So would definitely recommend making best use of that as well. Excellent. I wondered, might be a question, I think probably for Neil. I was wondering, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot too much, but if you had a good example of like a project or sort of campaign or piece of content that that like one of your students or you'd come across as part of the course that particularly stood out to you, just so that people can kind of take that away.
Oh, that's a really good question. No, not at all. That's a really good question.
Don't feel pressured to say one of mine, Neil.
Yeah, no, obviously,
definitely
Sam.
Be Sam.
Do you know what? There's so many examples. I've got a couple that spring to mind. I've got a learner whose name is Camilla, who works for an organisation down in Bristol, a company that was born out of BBC magazines, and was working for a very specific magazine output for a very specific demographic, albeit she felt that it was quite a restricted sort of audience. So within the course, the creative freedom that we allow with image and photography, went off and did an image and photography assignment, but went that extra kind of mile. We encourage what we call stretch and challenge. So we work to the individual capabilities of learners. And when you've got learners that are capable, we're like, right, let's try and do a little bit more here. And so Camilla did an amazing assignment response, going off and taking some photography and a variety of techniques and doing what we call still life photography, and chose to do something that was connected to one of the other partner brands in her organization, because Camilla was looking to apply for a job role and was looking to create a little portfolio for her interview. So used the assignment to give herself some leverage, and did the most amazing response to the assignment, took some photographs of some branded, I think it was a fizzy drink that was being promoted by one of her kind of partner brands, and put together her own advert campaign, basically her own pitch presentation to put to clients, but in a hypothetical sense, and took it into her job interview, and then got the job, which was absolutely amazing. Continued the apprenticeship, but went into another role on a higher pay grade and doing something that was more kind of aligned to her creative ambition. So yeah, that's one example. Wow, I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah, absolutely. And there are lots. I've got a young learner from Channel 4 at the moment who has been nominated for an award for the content that they've created within their role as a result of the course. And I think they're just days away from picking up that award, which is extraordinary. And this is just a young, raw talent from Yorkshire that under normal circumstances would have never found their way to Channel 4, but Channel 4 have relocated to Leeds in terms of their sort of head office presentation. And by being on this apprenticeship and by being, having that apprenticeship status and working with us, this learner is talk about a diamond in the rough. They're incredible what they're creating. So yeah, those are two examples that I can bring to
those are really brilliant examples. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very much.
Thank you.
I know we are sort of at closing time now, but we do have one question that's come through, so I thought we might tackle that before we close off today. So Hanny in the chat has asked about micro businesses and if you're a part-time employee or a part-time director or owner, kind of how that works and whether it could work with apprenticeships. So from my perspective, so it depends on a few other factors. I think they'd have to find out a little bit more about. It's more based on the job role of the apprentice and whether they can be supported by that manager. If they've got a part-time manager, that isn't a barrier, like it could work, and they just need to make sure that they're going to be able to be there to support that apprentice if they're going through the course. But yeah, apprenticeships do happen in large and small businesses. I have before supported levy transfer for businesses that are like 5 people or less. So it can work. It's just about making sure everyone's on the same page and kind of dedicated to it. I don't know if anyone else wanted to come in on that or if that covers it.
Yeah, I think, sorry, did you say was it part-time line manager versus part-time?
I was asking about both. So yeah, so there is part-time apprenticeships that you can do. They take twice as long to complete.
They do,
But yeah, I was talking, sorry, also answering
so
about
I would say it exactly depends on the programme. So in Content Creator, we have got learners who are on, I think, 21 hours contracts, but it does make it slightly harder for them to sort of get through all the work. So we do then do an adjusted learning plan where they will do all the workshops at the same time with their peers, but they will have additional time built in to do the assignments, to do all the additional stuff they need to do. So it lengthens the programme for them. So it's not impossible, but I would say if you are exploring more higher level apprenticeships, you will find that a lot of providers will say you need to be in 30 hours plus contracts just to allow it to align to the role, because when you think about it, people still have their day jobs to do, so you need to build them as much time as possible so they can evidence the new skills and take time out to do that. So
yeah, absolutely. Brilliant, thank you. I think that covers everything. Oh, is there one more question? Okay, sorry. Was there one more question about accessing the training as the director or owner? So again, yeah. So higher level people in the organisation can do apprenticeships. We just need to work out the time commitment against their other work that they've got to do. That's all really. I would recommend, if you're interested and you had those types of questions, I would recommend speaking to either Bauer or Workwhile. We can get to the nitty-gritty of the detail and work out and see if it works for you. But that would be my advice. Excellent. So sorry, I realise we are now 3 minutes over, so I will bring us to a close. Just really want to say thank you very much to everyone who spoke today. Thank you to Louise. Thank you to Jill. Thank you to Sam, Caroline, and Neil for all of your help in putting this together. There will be the recording shared with everyone, so it looks like there were a few people that signed up that haven't been able to join today, so they will receive the full recording, and there'll also be follow-up information sent out on an email about how you can get in touch with Workwhile, how you can get in touch with Bauer, how you can access the BBC's funds, and everything in between. So yeah, do share that far and wide with anyone else that you think might be interested. And yeah, thank you very much. I will let you all get on with the rest of your Thursdays.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.